fellow Michiganders. Good evening, my fellow Americans. Obviously, I have a lot to go over tonight in a short amount of time, so we're going to get right after it. So when I find data, because that's one thing that we have told you ever since the beginning of this and what I'm calling now the clown show. So ever since the beginning of the clown show, that is our job at Stand Up Michigan, is to care for you, to inform and educate you, and then to activate you. So before I inform and educate you with up-to-date, accurate information, I always want to verify it, right? And it's so hard to filter through all the garbage out there. There's so much fake news. There's so much media bias. We've all been exposed to it. We all see it with Facebook taking down videos and research, and YouTube doing the same. And then we got the fake news with the radical far left. And so you really just don't know what you don't know. And so it's really hard to sift through some things to get really good, accurate, detailed information. And I found something tonight that I want to share with you because they have a lot of great information. And we're going to get to the governor here in a second. But where I got this was Swiss Policy Research. And what this is an independent, nonpartisan, and nonprofit research group investigating geopolitical propaganda in Swiss and international media. So when you look at that, that sounds fantastic, right? I mean, they're basically going on there and filtering through all the garbage, which we have to see all the day. And they're just trying to present kind of like what I try to do, is up-to-date, accurate, and truthful information, regardless of media bias. And so I started to research to find out if this place was legit. And so I fact-checked it. And we all know fact checks are, it's a clown show too. I mean, you just can't believe everything that you fact check. So I went to one fact check called mediabiasfactcheck.com. It said Swiss Policy Research is in the middle. It's independent. It's not really, they can't say for sure that it's truthful, and they're not going to say it's garbage. So then I fact-checked the fact-checked. And when I fact-checked that fact-check, they said that mediabiasfactcheck.com is garbage. So, folks, I don't know what to tell you, because the more research you do, the more down the rabbit hole you go. But here's what I did. I went through the research I'm going to present to you all tonight, and then I looked it up according to Worldometer and the CDC and the WHO and everything else, and combined all the data. And the data I'm going to share to you, guess what? It's true. It is what is available as of right now on July 28th, today. Now, it changes every day, so we try to keep up with this narrative as much and as fast as possible. So, facts about COVID-19. According to the latest immunological studies, the overall lethality of COVID-19 is about 0.1%, and thus in the range of severe influenza, which is the flu. We kind of knew that. We talked about it all the time. Like, hey, you have a over 99% chance of living through this. But they're saying now it's what we're experiencing right now is in the range of a severe influenza flu season. That intrigued me. And so I read a little bit more, and it said in countries like the US, the UK, and also in Sweden, as you are all well aware of, did not lock down. They just basically quarantined the immunocompromised and the elderly. And guess what? They didn't crash their economy. We're going to see if that works or not. I'm a fan of Sweden. I'm keeping my eye on Sweden. But according to the US, UK, and also Sweden, overall mortality since the beginning of the year is in the range of a strong influenza season. In countries like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, overall mortality is in the range of a mild influenza season. So we're not on here saying that this doesn't exist, because it does. COVID is real. It does exist. It is a virus. It will come and whoop on the immunocompromised and the elderly, or somebody who's diabetic. All that research is there. But for healthy people, you're going to find out pretty soon here that you're not that accessible to this virus, and you're not even going to show signs and symptoms. Even in global hotspots, they went on to say, the risk of death for the general population of school and working age is typically in the range of a daily car ride to work. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means the odds of you dying from COVID, if you're in the general population of school and working age, then you have just as good a chance of dying in a car crash that you do with COVID. And do you get in your car every day and drive around? Yeah, I'm sure most of you do. So that's the odds of you dying from this thing, folks. So if you're going to stay in quarantine and be afraid, you might as well never drive again, because the risk of you dying in a car is just as much as you dying from COVID right now. Up to 80% of all test positive persons remain symptom-free. Let me repeat that. Up to 80% of all test positive persons remain symptom-free. Even among 70 to 79-year-olds, about 60% remain symptom-free. about 95% of all people develop at most moderate symptoms. Are you hearing this? Welcome to the clown show. Up to 60% of all persons may already have a certain cellular background immunity due to new coronavirus due to contact with previous coronaviruses, aka common colds. I don't know if a lot of you know out there, but common cold is a coronavirus. It's a type of coronavirus. Now, obviously, this one has a little bit more teeth than the common cold, but it says up to 60% of all persons may already have certain cellular background immunity, the new coronavirus, due to contact with previous coronaviruses. That's what herd immunity does, folks. You get sick and it strengthens your immunity. Excuse me. That is probably why that when 80% of the test positive persons, they remain symptom free because they already have good stuff in them that's fighting this virus. Welcome to the clown show. The median age of the deceased in most countries, including Italy, which everybody used the fear tactic of Italy in the beginning. That's all we heard. Like Italy was like gone. It was going to fall off into the Mediterranean Sea. The median age of all deceased in most countries, including Italy, is over 80 years of age. In many countries, up to 2/3 of all extra deaths occurred in nursing homes. We knew that because we have a couple governors, namely in New York and Michigan, who decided to put COVID-infected people into nursing homes. And we all saw how that turned out in the state of Michigan. Out of our over 6,000 deaths, 2,000 of them were from nursing homes. Welcome to the clown show. Up to 30% of all additional deaths may have been caused not by COVID-19, but the effects of the lockdown, panic, and fear. For example, the treatment of heart attacks and strokes decreased up to 60% because many patients no longer dared to go to the hospital. So that runs right with the narrative. I hate to say I told you so, because I've been saying this ever since I started Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine, way back on April 9th when our governor brought down the tyrannical hammer. The solution to this thing cannot be bigger than what's going to happen from the catastrophic effects of quarantine, of all these other things, of the stress, of the frustration, of no hope. We're seeing it. And unfortunately, we're going to see it for many years later. Even if COVID, as we know, kills, 200,000 to 300,000 people, hopefully not, but it may. The catastrophic consequences of what's going to happen from the decision-making of some of our elected officials, it's going to be way worse than that. 10 times as much. You heard it here first. So in 5 years when they do that data, you can look up this video and say, gosh darn it, Garrett was right. Because I'm calling it out right now. Even in so-called COVID-19 deaths, it is often not clear whether they died from or with coronavirus. We know that. You die in a car crash, you got COVID, they classify as a COVID. So all this data, all these stats are so skewed, we don't know what is wrong and where can we get good, accurate information. Many media reports of young and healthy people dying from COVID-19 turned out to be false. Many of these young people did not die from COVID-19. They have already been seriously ill. That was the underlying medical conditions, folks. Here's what I want to get to. This is good, juicy stuff. Countries without lockdowns, such as Japan, South Korea, Belarus, and Sweden, have not experienced a more negative course of events than many other countries. Sweden was even praised by the WHO and now benefits from higher immunity compared to lockdown countries. 75% of Swedish deaths happening in nursing facilities that weren't protected fast enough. So they messed up in the beginning. They didn't protect the elderly and immunocompromised fast enough, so it went through, and 75% of their deaths were, unfortunately, nursing home people, which that's what a couple of our governors did again, was put COVID-infected people in the nursing homes and killed them, okay? 31% in the state of Michigan, nursing home deaths. The fear of shortage of ventilators was unjustified. According to lung specialists, the invasive ventilation, the invasive ventilation, of COVID-19 patients, which is partly done out of fear of spreading the virus, is in fact often counterproductive and damaging to the lungs. Okay, let's talk about, because I didn't know a lot about it because I haven't been concentrating on ventilators. But that's all we heard in the beginning was that narrative was with the ventilators, right? We didn't have enough ventilators. We didn't have enough ventilators. We don't hear that anymore. Are they starting to find out that ventilators, they're not actually just incubating everybody and their mother like they were in the beginning? Because they're finding out now that it's often counterproductive and damaging to the lungs. And so did we kill a lot of people unnecessarily by forcing them on the ventilators when they didn't need to be? I don't know. I don't know that data yet, but I'm sure that will come out in the future, probably shoved underneath a bunch of other things that we'll never know. So let's go on, because it's going to get really interesting really quick here. The effectiveness of clinics in Europe and US remains strongly underutilized or most empty. We knew that with the hospitals and stuff. So I included the link in where I got all this. Again, I always told you all from the beginning, go on and research the data. Look at the data. Research it. It's all there, folks. Don't rely on CNN, MSNBC, CBS News, even Fox News, man. They're all biased, right? You got to look up this stuff for yourself and accumulate the data, and don't just go off of everything you hear on social media. Just don't listen to me. I want you guys to go and do the research yourself. That's what's going to empower you. So when you have confrontation, you have those archives in your brain and you can stand up and be confident and say, no, I'm right. Because all of us that are watching right now, we've all felt uneasy about this entire process. We've all felt like the wool's been pulled over our eyes. And that's why I stood up in the beginning, because it just didn't make sense. So let's fast forward all the way to now, to the present, to our governor's press conference today. And so one thing I didn't hear a lot of was a lot of fear, right? Because there shouldn't be any reason to be fearful anymore, because the deaths continue to be good, to be manageable. Our hospital systems aren't overwhelmed, but we're testing more. We're testing more. And what happens when you test more? Even the young lady who got on after the governor said they tested 5,000 more people and they had a 0.1% increase in positives. So they went from, I think she said, I can't quote this, but from last week, 3.5%, now we're 3.6%. And I started looking at it, I'm like, well, if you tested 5,000 more people, of course there's a good opportunity for that to increase by 0.1%. I don't know exactly what she said, but again, it's just smoke and mirrors, folks. So here's what I start to analyze things, and I look and I start to wonder, like, okay, what if I'm in her shoes right now? What if I start to analyze and all this data starting to come out that this is not that scary of a disease, that it's not going to wipe out millions and millions of Americans, which they told us. And I brought down the tyrannical hammer. I took away these people's sacred values, constitutional freedoms, and citizens' rights. And I continue to bring down the smackdown tyrannical hammer. I refuse to work with the legislatures, which I'm going to destroy that narrative here in a second. So what do you think is going to happen? They're probably going, uh-oh, the truth is going to come out. It is. And this is not a big scary virus. Look, people get infected. People do die. It does exist. But to completely demolish our economy, demolish not only Michigan, but the United States, and all the increase of suicides, domestic violence, the lives that are going to be damaged, the school systems, they're planning on doing, I don't know what's going to happen, at-home learning, or they're going to go in school and wear masks. The catastrophic things that's going to do to our children. I mean, it's a clown show. It's a complete clown show. Now we have teachers that are afraid they're going to get sick and die, right? And the research has already proven that this is just, what did I say, a mild influenza season, right? I want to make sure I quote the right thing. It's a severe influenza season, not mild, excuse me. It's severe. So it's just like a bad flu season. So we're not going to go to work and we're going to do at-home learning. So here's the clown show, what I'm going to talk about. The radical far left, that's all they do is talk about, how the poverty people don't get ahead in this world. And we need to do everything that we can. Well, what do you think is going to happen to the poverty? Black and white, folks. Green, yellow, I don't care. We're just talking poverty here. Let's keep the race out of it, because poverty is poverty. What do you think is going to happen to these poverty families with online at-home learning? With mom and dad both working, mom working, dad working if they're single parents? Or what happens if there's a bad family life? There's so many different variables. Do you think these kids are going to be back even more? So how are they ever going to get ahead? I mean, that's the stuff that I think of. I don't just sit in the reality of now. I'm looking ahead. And I'm telling you right now, the way that we're heading right now is not going to be good for these kids. It's not going to be good for our society. And we got the radical far left, the clown show, pushing the clown show. And here's the thing. Somebody told me, he's like, well, you hate liberals. I don't hate liberals. I have many liberal friends and family members that I love dearly. And one thing's for sure, if you're a liberal out there and you're watching, one thing's for sure about liberals, we can all agree on this. We may not agree on a lot of things like policy, but we can agree on this. We love this country. We love the Constitution. And we love that piece of paper called the Declaration of Independence. That's one thing that we can agree on. I love liberals. I'm a big fan of JFK, which today he'd probably be a moderate Republican. But the radical far left, the clown show, those are anarchists. Those are the people that hate America. Those are the clowns that you're seeing that are burning down cities right now. And the governors and the mayors of those cities are letting it happen. So until liberals, and if you're a liberal, you need to start standing up. And you need to start calling out the clown show of the radical far left. Because the very country that you love, just like me, is going to disappear right from underneath your nose. So if you're a liberal out there, you need to start standing up too to that radical far left that's burning down our cities right now. That's who we all need to join together right now and fight and get that crap and that garbage out of here, because there's no need for any of that. And for all those elected officials out there that are allowing that to happen, I hope you all be held accountable for that, because there's no way that should happen in America. And so when the president wants to come and bring federal troops to protect federal property, which they have every right. I don't know what code it is, but there is every right for the federal government to come in and protect federal property and the property around it. And you're going to call him out and say he's overstepping his boundaries? Okay, so let's go on to the next part. And I want to piggyback on what I just said, because, of course, they don't want the federal government to bring troops in to protect federal buildings, because, no, that's an abuse of power. You shouldn't do that. But when you get on a press conference, and I quote the governor, I will continue to do my part by calling on the federal government to help Michigan and states across the country. There it is. The double standard again, folks. So what the governor wants to do now, because she destroyed our economy from bringing down the tyrannical hammer by unilaterally making these decisions, which she refuses to work with the legislatures. So let me reread that quote again. I will continue to do my part by calling on the federal government to help Michigan and states across the country. She's going to do her part. To me, when I'm a parent, I have two beautiful kids. When they screw up, I discipline them. They get in trouble. And if you spoil your kids and you continue to get them out of trouble and you let them get away with it, what happens? They do it again. So the governor is in trouble now. Weird. Our economy is shot. There's no tax dollars to fix the damn roads. There's no tax dollars for all the schools, right? So now we're in a dilemma. Now they're set like, there's no money coming in. Well, weird what happens when you shut down our economy and you make all these family-owned businesses and generational businesses go out of business and can't pay taxes to fix the damn roads. What do you think happens? And so now you want your daddy, Trump, to come out and bail you out. Because that's what you're asking. You're asking the federal government, and I'm going to call him your daddy because that's what you just did today, Daddy Trump, to come bail you out because you screwed up. I wouldn't do it if I was president. I'd help in some other ways. I don't know how it works exactly, but you can't reward this kind of tyrannical behavior, especially she's calling on the federal government for help, right? I want to quote it again. I will continue to do my part by calling on the federal government to help Michigan and states across the country. You're willing to call on the federal government to have a handout that we need money, but you're not willing to work with your own elected officials? That you are still relying on a 75-year-old law, the 1945 law, to have unilateral control of our state, and you're telling our elected officials, the state and the House, that they're not responsible enough and that we're responsible as a movement to come try to take that 1945 law that will discontinue this tyranny? Well, guess what? We're getting it done. And we are going to repeal that 1945 law. And we are going to take away this unilateral power, because this is the clown show, ladies and gentlemen. This is the clown show. And again, now we're taking all the scary right? We got to flatten the curve, what she said in the beginning. Cases and deaths, cases and deaths, cases and deaths. Now we're just talking about cases because not a lot of people are dying anymore. And so that's not scary enough. So now we're going to continue to talk about what? Now it's the federal government's fault. And she's quoted as saying today, at a time when this country needs strong federal leadership, the Trump administration and Mitch McConnell have once again fallen short. Donald Trump, President Trump, is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. And we all see that. And from now on, and I've always had respect for any president who has held that office. But I'm letting you know right now, from going through this experience and experiencing just 3 months of the hate and the backlash and the radical far left and the clown show attacking me, my family, my business, I can only imagine what President Trump has dealt with and what he continues to deal with every moment for what? The past 6 to 7 years? Give the guy a break, folks. Holy cow. I mean, it's insane. It's the double standard that we see day in and day out. My goodness gracious. That's all I can say, and that's all I keep reiterating it to. It's a clown show. That's what it is, folks. It is a complete clown show, and it's orchestrated by the radical far left and that anarchist group, Antifa. That's all it is. So, what's going on this week? You guys are all doing amazing, amazing job with the repeal 1945 law. I'm hoping, and look, I know it's hard to watch those press conferences. I know it's hard, but you got to watch them. You got to grit your teeth, and you got to get through them. Because by the end of those press conferences, my fire in my heart and soul gets so bright, and it just gives me everything that I need to get that repeal 1945 law done, to restore the checks and balances in our government. Because when you got somebody going on there with a handout saying, federal government, help me, when you're not even willing to work with your fellow legislatures to get through a pandemic together, I don't know, folks. Clown show. That's the only thing that allows me to sleep well at night is I whimper at the end of the night going, clown show. And I wake up in the morning and I say, welcome to another clown show, because that's what this is. And I'll continue to be, especially when the data doesn't support it. And I told you all from the beginning, it's not if you get this disease or this virus, it's when. We're all going to get exposed to it if we haven't already. We need to allow it to come through. And then once we get herd immunity, once we all become sick and get over it, and 80% of us are going to be asymptomatic, right? And the deaths and everything, they're not going through the roof. But you can see the narrative. You can see what they're doing. You can see the threats with what she does. Like, well, if we don't mask up, to me, masking, it's like a muzzle. Be quiet. Hide your face. I don't want to hear what you have to say. That's how I take it. There's so much research on that. I don't know what to believe with it and droplets and everything else. But for a virus that you're going to have over a 99% chance and you're willing just to do that, and your kids, folks, you got to wake up. You got to wake up, because you can see the narrative for this fall. What do you think happens when cold and flu season? Hey, guess what? Cold is coronavirus. We're going to start testing everybody at that time, right before the election. We're going to freak everybody out, shut down everything. You can see it. So stand up. Stand up. Let's get this repeal 1945 law done. And this Friday, July 31st, Grand Haven, we're coming to your city for a Freedom Festival. We are coming to celebrate our freedoms. We are coming to Grand Haven. Get you and your families there. Bring your American flags. We're going to have petitions there for you to sign. You can hand your petitions there if you don't want to mail them in. You can interact with us. We're all going to be there. I think we're going to have a couple senators there speaking. It's going to be a phenomenal time. It's going to start around about 5 o'clock in the evening on Friday, this Friday. Make the pilgrimage. The Coast Guard Festival got canceled, folks. We're holding it right where they hold it. That's what Stand Up Michigan's about. We told you from the beginning that we are going to activate all of you to get to these local communities to help them recover. We will be the solutions, not the government. The solutions can only come from who? We the people. That's where they have to continue to come from. And we will continue to be the lantern in the darkness of today's challenges. And we will continue to be the beacon of light and hope. And I will always be on here and be transparent and give you up-to-date, accurate, and truthful information of what I have today. And I hope I accomplished that today. And I hope they gave you enough energy to get this repeal of 1945 law done. And so we can restore the checks and balances in our government and get our life, liberty, and our pursuit of happiness back, which our Creator has bestowed upon each and every single one of us. God bless you. God bless the state of Michigan. And God bless these United States. Have a phenomenal night. Miss Tammy Clark's going to be on in 30 minutes to talk about the Grand Haven Freedom Festival. Tune in then, folks.